by Rachmaninoff.
The Devil's in the Detail, the Rachmaninoff Daisies is the subject of this video today. And specifically, what do we mean by the Devil's in the Details? Well, I'm referring here to coloration in dynamics, moving from soft to loud to soft in the violin playing, which in this piece is actually extremely difficult to do. Before we go into that though, I just want to mention a bit of violin news that I have gleaned, or should I say some violin history just from watching another YouTube, and I'll leave the link because although the guy has a sort of an eccentric demeanor about him, he's nevertheless, what he's talking about is really quite interesting. So a couple of things. Firstly, this guy reckons that there were many more Strads than the 1,000 that is generally accepted as the number that he made. He actually made many more, and he gives his reasons why. So watch the video for that, it's interesting. Also, he suggests that how tragically lots of violins perished. So one thing he mentions is woodworm. It's kind of a fairly obvious one. And another thing he mentions is the aspect of people actually being buried with their violins. A bit like the Egyptians, the pharaohs would have themselves buried with their slaves, you know, that kind of thing. But I think he's taking it from the angle that these rich people didn't realise that in some sense the violin is more important than the human being in that it's going to last 300-400 years and move from generation to generation and be highly cherished and become highly valuable. They just didn't appreciate that about Strads and such like in those days, so they would the nobles would get buried with their violin with them as if they could take it to the afterlife. And then maybe it's just kind of the vanity of that noble person doing that as well. So with that out of the way, now I want to come on to the topic of this video: coloration in dynamics, soft to loud, loud to soft, subtlety in dynamics. So it's the Rachmaninoff Daisies and a particular passage that I've selected to discuss. And again, let's compare some different versions and you can let me know who pulls this off the best. Let's take a look. First, let's look at the maestro, Mr. HEIFETZ. So that passage where it goes, and let's see if I can show you that in the score. Okay, let's listen to some of the versions now by way of comparison. Now, Mr. PERLMAN is a violinist I greatly respect. He's probably in my top 5. Sometimes I think maybe he might be in my top 3. And what's amazing about him is with his old world beautiful sound, he's actually one of the few that's still left on this earth. Most of them have shaken off this earthly coil and disappeared. So Mr. PERLMAN is still amongst us. Let's listen to his version now of the Rachmaninoff Daisies and that small passage there. It's a slightly different ending to HEIFETZ version, but it's that passage we're listening out for. Subtlety and coloration. Does he have the subtlety that HEIFETZ has? Of course, Perlman has a very big sound, a huge sound, bigger than HEIFETZ sound. So let's now move on to another artist with a huge sound, Mr. David OISTRAKH, and check out his version of the Rachmaninoff Daisies. So another beautiful version there, but the coloration, the interpretation of that passage, very different to how HEIFETZ does it. It seems like it's these guys, they're getting the actual correct ending. I'm so used to listening to HEIFETZ version. It seems like HEIFETZ dispenses with the filigree ending there. Okay, and finally I'm going to go for a version by a violinist I've never heard of before, called Sorry, that's the pianist. Galina Koycheva. Let's see how she tackles this piece. See, as nice as that sounded, I did not detect any coloration. It was all at the same volume from what I could make out there. Nice version though. Let's catch the HEIFETZ version one more time. See if you can spot what I'm talking about. HEIFETZ dispenses with the fancy ending. He would consider that as not musical, and he will do this sometimes. HEIFETZ will just chop bits out that he doesn't consider really belong there. Fair enough. Yeah, but it's just interesting listening to the different ending. But the soft loud now that. To achieve it the way that HEIFETZ does it is exceptionally difficult. And I think this is what we're getting onto when we talk about a born genius. So, first of all, the imagination of the artist, to imagine that it should be soft, loud like this. In HEIFETZ's case, often very strict interpretation of the composer's intention. We'll look at the score in a minute for this too. To see how HEIFETZ fares there, because he will at times also maybe enhance what the composer, if the composer would hear him play it, would probably be knocked right over and think, wow, I didn't know that's what I could have meant by this piece, maybe. But yeah, that soft, loud, if you're not a violinist, I don't know how to explain to you just how hard it is to do that. And also HEIFETZ doing it a notch up in terms of the speed. But even though he goes faster than most, he doesn't sacrifice quality for the sake of speed. So these are the kind of things we mean when we talk about a born genius. All right. So let me know your thoughts there on the Rachmaninoff Daisies, that passage there in particular, which continues to fascinate me every time I hear HEIFETZ play it. So the devil is in the detail.